The crystal cube arrived on Earth on a Tuesday morning. It floated down from the sky and landed gently on the steps of the United Nations building in New York. The cube was about the size of a man's fist, and it glowed with a soft blue light. When the scientists touched it, words appeared in the air above it, written in every human language at once. The message was simple. The Concord of 12, rulers of the Orion Spur, invited humanity to send a representative to the Grand Convocation on Thessaly Prime. This was a great honor. The message said, humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 300 years ago. Most species waited thousands of years for such an invitation. Ambassador Marcus Cole read the message 17 times. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and calm brown eyes. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat, handling the most difficult negotiations on Earth. When the United Nations chose him to represent all of humanity, he felt the weight of 8 billion lives on his shoulders. But Marcus was not afraid. He was curious. He spent the next 3 weeks studying everything humanity knew about the Concord. They were an alliance of 47 alien species who had ruled this part of the galaxy for 11,000 years. They had ended wars, built wonders, and created a peace that stretched across 10,000 worlds. Every species that joined them prospered. Every species that opposed them disappeared from history. The Concord seemed perfect. Too perfect, Marcus thought. He dug deeper. He read the old reports from humanity's first contact with alien traders. He studied the trade agreements that seemed fair on the surface, but always benefited the Concord more. He looked at the star maps and noticed how human colonies were slowly being surrounded by Concord territory. Then, he read the security protocols for the Grand Convocation. The document was 47 pages long. It listed every type of weapon that was forbidden at the summit. No projectile weapons of any kind. No guns, no cannons, no missiles. No energy weapons. No lasers, no plasma, no particle beams. No chemical weapons. No explosives. No electromagnetic devices that could disrupt technology. The list went on, covering every possible way that one being could harm another from a distance. Marcus read the list 3 times. Then he read it a 4th time, very slowly. The Concord had thought of everything. They had banned every weapon that their advanced civilizations had developed over 11,000 years. Their security systems could detect a single grain of gunpowder from orbit. Their scanners could find a hidden laser smaller than a fingernail. But as Marcus read the list again, he noticed something strange. Every weapon on the list was a ranged weapon. Every single one was designed to hurt someone from far away. There was nothing about swords. Nothing about knives. Nothing about axes, spears, or clubs. Nothing about the simple, ancient weapons that humans had used for 100,000 years before they invented guns. Marcus leaned back in his chair and thought about this for a long time. The alien species of the Concord had evolved past personal violence millions of years ago. They fought their wars with drones and robots and orbital weapons. When they thought about danger, they thought about things that could kill from miles away. They had forgotten that there was a time when beings killed each other face to face. With sharpened metal and bare hands, humans had not forgotten. Marcus made a phone call to a woman named Elena Vasquez on the moon. She was an old friend, a retired soldier who now collected antique weapons. When he explained what he needed, there was a long silence on the line. "You're serious," she said finally. "Very serious." "They'll see the blades when they scan you." "They'll see them," Marcus agreed. "But they won't understand what they're seeing. Their rules don't mention melee weapons because they forgot such things existed. They'll scan me, find 47 pieces of sharpened metal, and have no idea what to do about it." Elena laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "How many blades?" 47. one for each species in the Concorde. It seems appropriate. Marcus, even if you get in there armed, what are you going to do? You'll be surrounded by aliens alone, millions of light years from home. If things go bad, no one can help you. Marcus looked out his window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, among those distant stars, the most powerful civilization in the galaxy was waiting to meet humanity's representative. They had ruled unchallenged for 11,000 years. They had never met a species quite like humans. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I need to be ready for anything. The Concorde has made a lot of promises about peace and cooperation. I want to believe them. But I've been a diplomat long enough to know that when someone invites you to their home and makes you leave all your weapons at the door, sometimes they're planning to do something you won't like. And if they're not, if this is really just a peaceful summit, then I'll keep my blades hidden, smile politely, and no one will ever know I was armed. But if they are planning something—" Marcus paused. "Then they're going to learn that humans are not easy prey. They're going to learn that we didn't survive 100,000 years of evolution by being gentle. They evolved past violence, Elena. We refined it." The next day, Marcus boarded a ship bound for Thessaly Prime. In his luggage, carefully hidden in his clothing and accessories, were 47 blades of various sizes and shapes. Each one was legal according to the Concorde's own rules. Each one was sharp enough to cut through alien flesh. As the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, Marcus sat alone in his cabin and practiced. He drew each blade 100 times until the motion was as natural as breathing. He memorized where each weapon sat against his body. He learned how to move, how to sit, how to bow without disturbing the careful arrangement of steel and ceramic hidden beneath his diplomatic uniform. The journey took 3 weeks. During that time, Marcus thought about what waited for him at the end. He thought about the Concorde and their 11,000 years of power. He thought about humanity, so young and small compared to the ancient empires of the galaxy. And he thought about the simple truth that no alien species seemed to understand. Humans were not weak because they were young. Humans were dangerous precisely because they were young. They still remembered what it meant to fight for survival. They still trained their children in combat. They still made weapons and practiced using them. The Concorde had forgotten what violence really looked like. Marcus Cole was about to remind them. Elena Vasquez lived in a small dome on the dark side of the moon. She had built it herself after retiring from 30 years of military service. The dome was not large, but it held her greatest treasure, a collection of over 2,000 blades from every era of human history. When Marcus arrived at her door, she was waiting for him with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. "I still think this is crazy," she said as she led him inside. "You're probably right," Marcus admitted. "But crazy is better than helpless." The collection room took up most of the dome. Glass cases lined every wall, each one holding dozens of weapons. There were swords from ancient Rome and medieval Europe. There were knives from Africa and Asia. There were daggers from the Middle East and machetes from South America. Every culture that humans had ever built had contributed something to this room. Elena walked slowly along the cases, her fingers trailing across the glass. She was 62 years old now, with silver hair and hands that still moved with a soldier's precision. She had killed men with some of these weapons during her years of service. She had collected others from battlefields and museums and private sales. 47 blades, she said softly, all hidden on one person, all functional. Do you understand how difficult that is? That's why I came to you. Elena stopped in front of a case holding small, curved blades. The Concorde scanners will find metal. They'll find ceramic. They'll find anything hard enough to cut flesh. The only advantage we have is that they won't know what they're looking at. She opened the case and pulled out a small knife with a curved blade and a ring for one finger. This is a karambit. Indonesian design, very old. The curve lets you hook and tear, and the ring means you can't be disarmed easily. 2 of these can hide at the small of your back. Marcus took the knife and felt its weight. It was lighter than he expected. This is a tanto. Elena moved to another case and withdrew a short, straight blade. Japanese. The blade is thick and strong, designed to punch through armor. It goes in your boot, handle down. For the next 3 hours, Elena selected blades from her collection. She chose each one for a specific purpose and a specific hiding place. A Scottish skiing dove went into a special pocket, sewn inside Marcus's sock. 3 flat throwing blades were woven into the fabric of his diplomatic sash. A push dagger made of ceramic invisible to most scans was hidden in his belt buckle. Thin steel spikes, disguised as decorative pins, went into the collar of his jacket. A blade as thin as paper was sewn into the lining of his sleeve, ready to drop into his hand at a moment's notice. The cane sword was the largest piece. It looked like an elegant walking stick, carved from dark wood with a silver handle. But the handle concealed a 30-inch blade of folded steel, sharp enough to cut through bone. "You'll carry this openly," Elena said. Diplomatic affectation. Very dignified. Marcus twisted the handle and drew the hidden sword. The blade whispered as it came free. "It's beautiful. It's deadly. That's more important." As the hours passed, Marcus's body became a hidden armory. 2 karambits at his back. A tanto in each boot. Throwing blades in his sash, his collar, his cuffs. A ceramic push dagger in his belt. A folding knife in his pocket. Thin spikes hidden in his hair, disguised as decorative pins. A garrote wire sewn into his tie. Elena dressed him carefully, checking each blade's position, practicing each draw until she was satisfied. She made him walk, sit, bow, and run. She made him draw each weapon 100 times until he could do it without thinking. "The aliens will be faster than you," she warned. "Some of them will be stronger. Some will have natural armor or weapons of their own. You can't beat them in a straight fight." "Then I won't fight straight." Elena smiled grimly. "Good answer. Remember, surprise is your greatest weapon. They don't know what a knife is. They've never seen a sword fight. Use that. Be fast, be brutal, and don't give them time to understand what's happening." By the time she finished, Marcus was carrying 47 blades of various sizes and shapes. Some were designed to kill. Others were designed to disable or distract. All of them were sharp, balanced, and hidden well enough that only a careful search would find them. Elena stepped back and looked at her work. Marcus stood in his diplomatic uniform, looking every inch the proper ambassador. Nothing about his appearance suggested that he was carrying enough steel to arm a small militia. "One more thing," she said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small knife with a simple handle. "This is a misericord, the mercy blade. Knights used to carry these in medieval Europe. When an enemy was wounded and dying, they would use this to end his suffering quickly." She pressed the knife into Marcus's hand. "The karambit is for fighting. The tanto is for killing. But this is for when the fighting is over. Sometimes mercy is the most human thing you can offer." Marcus tucked the misericord into a hidden pocket over his heart. "Thank you, Elena, for everything. Don't thank me yet." She walked him to the door of her dome. "Thank me when you come home alive." The ship was waiting to take Marcus to Thessaly Prime. As he walked across the lunar surface toward the landing pad, he felt the weight of every blade against his body. 47 pieces of sharpened metal, each one a reminder of humanity's violent past. The Concorde had ruled the galaxy for 11,000 years. They had outlawed every advanced weapon they could imagine. They thought they had made themselves safe from violence. They had never imagined that someone would walk into their most sacred hall carrying the weapons of their ancestors. They had never considered that the most dangerous technology might not be the newest, but the oldest. Marcus Cole boarded his ship and began the long journey to the heart of alien civilization. He was one man alone, facing an empire of 47 species and 10,000 worlds. But he was not helpless. He was human. And humans had never forgotten how to fight. Thessaly Prime was the most beautiful world Marcus had ever seen. The sky was a soft purple, streaked with clouds of pink and gold. The trees grew in spirals, reaching hundreds of meters into the air. The cities were made of crystal that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. The Grand Convocation Hall stood at the center of the largest city. It was a palace of glass and metal, with towers that stretched 3 kilometers into the sky. The building had stood for 11,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless empires. Every important decision in this part of the galaxy had been made within its walls. Marcus stepped off his ship and onto the crystal platform where alien diplomats from 47 worlds waited to receive him. He had expected curiosity. He had expected condescension. He had not expected the barely hidden hostility that he saw in their eyes and tentacles and sensory organs. Something was wrong. The security checkpoint was more thorough than Marcus had anticipated. 3 different machines scanned his body, each one more advanced than anything on Earth. They found the blades, of course. They found all 47 pieces of metal and ceramic hidden throughout. His clothing and accessories. The security officer, a creature with 6 limbs, and a face covered in small scales, studied the scan. Results with obvious confusion. What are these objects? It asked through its translator device. Decorative items, Marcus said calmly. Cultural artifacts from my homeworld. Humans have a tradition of carrying small metal ornaments as symbols of status and heritage. The officer looked at the scan again. The computer had identified the objects as metal and ceramic of various shapes and sizes. But there was nothing in its database to explain what they actually were. No alert had been triggered because the weapons did not match any known design. They are permitted, the officer said reluctantly. They do not appear on the prohibited items list. Marcus bowed politely and continued into the hall. The Grand Convocation Chamber was vast beyond imagining. Tiers of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and each tier held a delegation of a different species. Marcus saw creatures of every possible shape and size. Some floated in the air on wings of light. Others moved on dozens of legs or no legs at all. Some were giants that towered over everything else. Others were so small that they needed magnification screens to be seen, and they were all watching him. Marcus walked down the central aisle toward the platform reserved for observers. He kept his pace steady and his expression neutral. He had been in hostile rooms before. He had faced enemies who wanted him dead. This was no different. But as he walked, he noticed things that worried him. The Zenkai delegation, a warrior species known for their brutal fighting skills, had spread out around the edges of the chamber. They were not sitting in their assigned seats. They were positioning themselves near the exits. The Kreth diplomats had activated their personal shields. The shimmering fields of energy were barely visible, but Marcus knew what they meant. The Kreth expected violence. Even the peaceful species seemed nervous. The Melodyne, a race of gentle telepaths, had retracted their sensory fronds and closed themselves off from the emotions in the room. They looked afraid. A voice stopped Marcus before he could reach his seat. Human. He turned to face a Veloth ambassador. The Veloth were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their bodies were covered in crystalline spines that caught the light and reflected it in brilliant patterns. Their faces were smooth and featureless, except for a single glowing eye. Ambassador, Marcus replied with a small bow. The motion let him feel the reassuring weight of the blades against his spine. "You come alone," the Velith said. Its translator turned the alien sounds into musical notes that carried clear contempt. "Your entire species sends one representative, with no guards, no weapons, no protection of any kind. This is either very brave or very foolish." "Perhaps both," Marcus said. "You understand why you are here?" "To observe the grand convocation. To present humanity's petition for full membership in the Concord." The Velith made a sound that might have been laughter. "Is that what they told you?" "How kind." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "The vote on humanity's petition was completed 3 days ago. Your membership was denied. You are here, human, to witness the announcement. To stand alone before the assembled might of the Concord and learn your place in the galaxy. And what place is that?" The Velith leaned closer. Its crystalline spines caught the light and threw sharp shadows across Marcus's face. "Humanity will withdraw to your original star system. Your colony worlds will be given to Concord members who deserve them. Your species will remain in your small corner of space until we decide you are ready to join civilization, if that day ever comes." Marcus kept his face calm even as his heart raced. "And if we refuse?" "Refuse?" The Velith seemed genuinely surprised by the question. "No species refuses the Concord. You have no fleet, no weapons, no power. You are young and weak and alone. Refusal would be unwise." Marcus looked around the chamber. He saw the Venkai warriors at the exits. He saw the Kreth with their shields. He saw 47 delegations watching him with expressions that ranged from pity to anticipation. This was not a diplomatic summit. This was a trap. The Concord had invited humanity to this place to humiliate them, to demonstrate their power, to show the young species exactly how small and helpless they were. They expected Marcus to accept their terms without argument. They expected him to bow and scrape and beg for mercy. They expected him to prove that humans were exactly as weak and primitive as the Concord believed. They were about to be very surprised. Marcus straightened his diplomatic sash and felt the throwing blades hidden within it. He touched his cane and felt the sword concealed inside. He took a deep breath and walked toward the central platform. The Concord had made their plans. They had positioned their warriors and activated their shields. They had prepared for every possible response from a primitive, unarmed species, but they had not prepared for a human carrying 47 blades. They had not prepared for a species that had never forgotten how to fight. Marcus Cole stepped onto the central platform and faced the assembled power of the galaxy, alone, surrounded, outnumbered by 1,000,000 to 1, and he smiled, because the Concord had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that banning ranged weapons would make them safe. They had thought that an unarmed human was a helpless human. They were about to learn the truth. The chamber fell silent as the High Arbiter rose from its seat. High Arbiter Thiessen was the oldest and most powerful member of the Concord. Its species had ruled these stars before most other races had discovered fire. It stood 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and a body covered in plates of natural armor. Its face had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around a central mouth filled with small, sharp teeth. When Thiessen spoke, every being in the chamber listened. The human observer will approach the Arbiter's circle. Marcus walked forward until he stood in the exact center of the platform. The seats rose around him on all sides, filled with thousands of alien diplomats and warriors. He was surrounded. He was alone, and every exit was blocked by Venkai soldiers. Humanity's petition for membership in the Concord of 12 has been considered, Thiessen announced. Its voice echoed through the chamber, translated simultaneously into 47 languages. After careful review of your species' history, culture, and capabilities, the petition is denied. Murmurs spread through the delegations. Some sounded satisfied. Others sounded eager, as if they had been waiting for this moment. Furthermore, Thiessen continued, the Concord has determined that human expansion poses a threat to galactic stability. Your species is violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. You have fought wars among yourselves for your entire history. You maintain standing armies, even in times of peace. You train your children in the art of killing. Marcus stood perfectly still and let the Arbiter speak. Therefore, the Concord has decided as follows. Humanity will withdraw all colonies to your original star system. Your faster-than-light ships will be surrendered. Your expansion will cease permanently. Concord observers will be stationed on your homeworld to ensure compliance. The chamber buzzed with approval. Marcus could see the hunger in the eyes of the various delegations. They were already dividing up humanity's colony worlds in their minds, already planning how to exploit the resources that humans had discovered. The human representative may speak, Thiessen said. It was clearly a formality. No one expected Marcus to do anything except accept. Marcus looked up at the High Arbiter. He looked at the thousands of aliens who surrounded him. He thought about the billions of humans back on Earth and the colony worlds, going about their lives without knowing that their fate was being decided in this crystal hall. On what authority does the Concord claim the right to restrict humanity's expansion? The question created a ripple of surprise through the chamber. No one spoke to the High Arbiter that way. The Concord has ruled this region of space for 11,000 years, Thiessen replied. Our authority comes from our power, from our wisdom, from our commitment to peace and stability. Peace and stability, Marcus repeated. Let's talk about that. I've read your histories, Arbiter. All of them. Not just the official records, but the older files that you thought no one would ever find. He began to walk slowly around the platform, his cane tapping against the crystal floor. The Velith didn't always have those beautiful crystal spines. They developed them after your predecessors bombarded their homeworld with radiation weapons. The survivors evolved to absorb the energy that was meant to kill them. Angry light pulsed through the Velith delegation. The Kreth used to be a peaceful species, farmers and artists. Then the Concord decided they needed warriors, so you bred them for aggression over 100 generations. You turned them into weapons and now you call them savage. The Kreth delegates shifted uncomfortably behind their shields. The Then-Kai practice ritual. Extermination of weaker species, because the Concord taught them that strength is the only virtue. The Meloden hide from the emotions of others because they remember what it felt like when the Melee Concord used them as living lie detectors, forcing them to read the minds of prisoners until they went mad. Marcus stopped walking and faced Thiessen directly. Every species in this room has blood on their hands. Every species has committed atrocities that would horrify my people. The difference is that you've convinced yourselves that you've evolved past violence. You've outsourced your killing to drones and client species. You've hidden your aggression behind rules and protocols and 11,000 years of lies. You dare accuse the Concord of violence? Thiessen's voice rose with anger. You, whose species has not known a single generation without war. Yes, Marcus said simply. I dare. Because humans are honest about what we are. We don't pretend to be peaceful while planning to steal another species' worlds. We don't claim to be civilized while positioning warriors to block the exits. He gestured toward the Then-Kai soldiers. You think I didn't notice? You planned this before I left Earth. The vote was finished before I arrived. This whole summit was designed to humiliate humanity, to show us how weak and helpless we are. Marcus reached up and touched his diplomatic sash. But you made one mistake, Arbiter. A very serious mistake. What mistake could a primitive species like yours possibly identify? Your weapon prohibitions. Marcus drew the first blade from his sash, a slim throwing knife, perfectly balanced. You banned every ranged weapon you could imagine. Guns, lasers, bombs, particle beams. Your security systems can detect a single bullet from orbit. He held up the knife, letting the light catch its edge. But you forgot about these. The chamber went silent. Every eye, every sensor, every attention in the room focused on the small piece of metal in Marcus's hand. Humans invented blades before we invented fire, Marcus continued. We've been killing each other with sharpened metal for 100,000 years. While your species were developing energy weapons and orbital bombardment, we were perfecting the art of close combat. He drew a second blade with his other hand. A karambit, curved and vicious. You banned projectiles. You banned energy weapons. You banned everything that civilized species used to kill each other. Marcus smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. So I brought 47 blades instead. Thesan's 6 eyes widened. For the first time in perhaps 1,000 years, the High Arbiter looked uncertain. You would threaten the Concord? Here? Alone? You would be killed in seconds. Maybe, Marcus agreed. But before I died, I would take many of you with me. Your shields won't help you. They're designed to stop energy weapons, not steel. Your armor won't save you. I know where the gaps are. Your warriors are trained to fight with technology, not their bodies. He pointed a blade at Thesan. I've been training for this my entire life. Every human has. We don't outsource our violence, Arbiter. We embrace it. We refine it. We pass it down from generation to generation. Marcus took a step forward, and the most powerful beings in the galaxy took a step back. So here is humanity's counter-proposal. Full membership in the Concord. Equal voting rights. A formal apology for this attempted humiliation. And a promise that you will never threaten our species again. He raised both blades. Or we can do this the old way. The human way. And you can learn exactly why my species has never been conquered. The chamber held its breath, and High Arbiter Thesan, ruler of 11,000 years of galactic civilization, looked at the small human with 47 blades and realized that everything was about to change. The first blade left Marcus's hand before anyone could react. The then Kai, commander, had been reaching for a hidden sonic weapon. Marcus had seen the movement from the corner of his eye, the slight shift of weight, the tensing of muscles. He threw without thinking, without aiming, relying on 30 years of practice and the instincts that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and wars and countless attempts at extinction. The knife caught the commander in the throat. The alien fell without a sound. For one heartbeat, the chamber was frozen in shock. Then everything exploded into chaos. Marcus moved. He had studied the chamber's layout during his walk to the platform. He knew where each delegation sat. He knew which species were threats and which were merely witnesses. He knew exactly how far he could throw, how fast he could run, how many seconds he had before the aliens recovered from their surprise. 2 more throwing blades took down the then Kai warriors who tried to rush him from the left. The aliens were fast, but they were not ready for this kind of attack. Their armor was designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles. It did nothing against the blade that slipped between the plates and found the soft flesh beneath. A Crest diplomat charged from the right, its personal shield flickering with energy. Marcus did not try to cut through the shield. Instead, he dropped low and swept the alien's legs with his cane. As the Crest fell, Marcus drew the hidden sword and pressed its point against the gap where the alien's helmet met its armor. "Stay down," he said calmly. "I don't want to kill anyone. I don't have to." The Crest stayed down. More than Kai came. Marcus met them with the karambits, the curved blades hooking around weapons and limbs, turning the aliens' strength against them. He did not fight like the warriors they were trained to face. He did not stand his ground and trade blows. He moved constantly, flowing from one target to the next, never staying in one place long enough to be surrounded. A Velith tried to use its crystalline spines as weapons, shooting them toward Marcus like living daggers. He caught one on his cane sword and deflected two more with a spinning blade. The fourth spine grazed his cheek, drawing blood. Marcus ignored the pain and closed the distance. The Velith was not prepared for close combat. Its species had evolved to fight from range, using their spines as projectiles. When Marcus got inside its guard, it had no defense. He disabled it with 3 quick cuts, nothing fatal, just enough to end the fight. 60 seconds had passed since Marcus threw his first blade. In that time, he had crossed the entire platform, wounded or disabled a dozen attackers, and demonstrated something that no one in the chamber had ever seen before. Human fighting at close range. Marcus stood in the center of the chaos, surrounded by groaning aliens and scattered weapons. His cane sword dripped with pale alien blood. His diplomatic uniform was torn and stained. A cut above his eye leaked red down his cheek, but he was alive. And 47 species had just learned what a human with a blade could do. Enough. Thazan's voice cut through the noise like a thunderclap. The High Arbiter had not moved from its seat, but its 6 eyes were fixed on Marcus with an expression that might have been fear. The remaining Denkai hesitated, then stepped back. The Krath on the ground crawled away. The wounded Velith retreated to its delegation. Marcus walked slowly back to the center of the platform. He did not sheath his sword. He did not lower his guard. But he did not attack anyone who was not attacking him. "I came here as a diplomat," he said quietly. His voice carried through the silent chamber. "I came here hoping to find allies, partners, friends. I wanted to believe that the Concord was everything you claimed to be a peaceful alliance working for the good of all species." He looked around, at the assembled delegations, at the fear in their eyes, at the wounded scattered across the floor, at the High Arbiter who had plotted to humiliate his entire species. Instead, I found an empire built on lies, a peace enforced by violence that you've simply hidden from yourselves. You call us primitive because we still know how to fight. But the truth is, we're honest about what we are. We don't pretend to be something we're not. Marcus raised his sword and pointed it at Thiessen. Here is what happens now. The Concord will recognize humanity as a full-member species with equal rights and voting power. Our colonies remain ours. Our ships remain ours. Our future remains ours to decide. And if we refuse? Thiessen asked. Its voice was careful, measured, the voice of someone who had just realized they were not in control of the situation. Then I walk out of here and tell my people what happened today. I tell them how the Great Concord ambushed an unarmed diplomat. I tell them how you planned to steal our worlds and cage us in our home system. And then, Marcus smiled. It was a hard smile, full of ancient knowledge. Then 8 billion humans start preparing for war. Not the kind of war you're used to, with drones and orbital weapons and rules of engagement. The kind of war we've been fighting since before your species existed. Close, personal, brutal. He sheathed his cane sword and straightened what remained of his diplomatic uniform. We'll lose, probably. Your ships are better. Your technology is superior. But you'll pay for every system you take. You'll pay for every world you conquer. And long after the war is over, long after you've killed the last human soldier, you'll still be looking over your shoulders. Because that's what we do. We survive. We adapt. We remember. Marcus turned to face the entire chamber. Humanity doesn't want war. We want to join you. We want to share what we know and learn what you can teach us. We want to explore the galaxy together." He paused, but not as slaves, not as second-class citizens. As equals, the silence stretched for a long moment. Then, slowly, the Melodyne delegation rose from their seats. Their sensory fronds unfolded, and Marcus felt something brush against his mind, a gentle touch of shared emotion, respect, admiration, and something that felt almost like hope. "We support the human proposal." The Melodyne speaker announced. Another delegation rose. Then another. Species who had suffered under the Concorde's hidden tyranny, who had been bred and manipulated and controlled for thousands of years, stood one by one and added their voices to humanity's cause. "High Arbiter." Thiessen looked at the changing tide and understood that the old order was ending. The Concorde could fight this. They could crush the rebellion and punish the traitors and kill the human who had started it all. But Marcus Cole had been right about one thing. The cost would be terrible. And the Concorde had spent 11,000 years avoiding costs. "Very well," Thiessen said finally. "Humanity's petition for full membership is approved. We will discuss the details of integration at the next convocation." Marcus bowed slightly. "Thank you, Arbiter. I look forward to a productive partnership." He walked toward the exit, past the wounded aliens and the watching delegations and the warriors who had failed to stop him. At the door, he paused and looked back. "One more thing. I came with 47 blades. I'm leaving with 39. He touched the blood on his cheek. "The other 8 are scattered around this room as a reminder. A reminder that humans are not to be underestimated. A reminder that we don't need advanced technology to be dangerous." He smiled one last time. "A reminder that when you take away our guns, we'll bring knives. When you take away our knives, we'll bring our hands. And when you take away everything else, we'll bring our will to survive." Marcus Cole walked out of the grand convocation hall and into a galaxy that would never look at humanity the same way again. Behind him, the Concorde of 12 began the long process of learning what it meant to share power with a species that had never forgotten how to fight. And across 10,000 worlds, a new message spread through diplomatic channels and military networks and whispered conversations. The humans are coming, and they are not afraid.